G'day. Video number 2 of the same walkthrough that I posted the first video just earlier this morning. So without any further suspense or clickbait, let's get back into it. We're at another patch of Ducasse, dwarf Ducasse more specifically. Now these are the standard fences around residential areas at 1.8 metres tall. So that gives you an indicator that bunch is a bit above shoulder height. So this dwarf variety isn't as small as the dwarf Cavendish varieties, which will fruit even lower at about 1.2 metres high. So this here is what I call a dummy banana. It's smaller than the other ones on the hand, and that's the indicator that there's no more viable bananas going to be created beyond that point. So that flower's useless to anything other than the noisy minor birds which scratch all your fruit while they're going after the nectar. So we'll remove that and then go back to bagging it up a little later before the birds find the open flowers. We'll come around here. So this patch of Ducasse has gone way beyond mother, daughter, granddaughter. So we've got smaller bunches of fruit but get fruit more often. And this is another method of bagging which involves a nail rather than the clips, because say if you had a whole farm of these, you'll find nails a lot more cost effective than those clips that I used a bit earlier in the first video. So it's the same thing, it's just using a nail. And irrigation, we just run dripper off gravity fed tanks. So this one's run off a tank that's only got 2,000 litres in it. So there's never going to be a great deal of water pressure, which means you can experiment with little ball valves and bits and pieces. While you are experimenting, leave it exposed on the surface until you're happy with where it all is and check it's all working before you throw mulch over the top of it. But if you're hooking into the town water, this will happen. It'll pop off and you'll have to use clips, and even the clips will fail unless you know what you're doing with water pressure and plumbing. But this is great to experiment and start with gravity fed water from tanks from your roof, which is more of a permaculture style of doing things anyway, and just observe and interact, change it over time. This is one of the best tools I own, but unfortunately they're not for sale. They stopped making them about 40, 50 years ago. It's called a gouge, and it's made specifically for this task on banana farms. It's a really heavy duty steel that doesn't bend. Like if you thought you were going to make one out of a star picket or something, it's not going to work. And actually one reason they stopped making these is because they found out that injecting a little bit of diesel into these suckers was easier to kill these unwanted suckers. So, but this is a sucker that I want to keep. So that's good planting material. And for good health and hygiene, this is how you prepare it. A lot of people would think, oh, but you're getting rid of the roots. Don't you need the roots to give it a better chance? But in fact, to the contrary, this is how you'd properly prepare planting material to be planted out to get more bananas. Moving forward through this swale, which doubles as a keyhole access path, we need to continue through the perimeter landscaping, which is starting to get blocked off. So rather than take those into another part of the garden as mulch, we'll just drop them for now and create that metre spacing. It's also handy to have voids where you can dump opportunities of lots of mulch that might come your way, and it'll also leave you some access. This plant here is a prime example of how banana plants grow, how tough and resilient they are. Because it was encroaching on that metre space, I lopped the top off before it had even gone to flower and fruit, yet it's shot up anyway and thrown some fruit regardless of having no leaves. So even though there's no leaves and photosynthesis, I'd imagine this will actually fill out and have little sweet bananas. They're not going to get huge, of course, but I'm going to see what happens. I reckon they'll end up ripening into little tasty bananas. They're big, tall ladyfingers, so that's an accidental way to dwarf them, which was not the intention. We just didn't need a banana plant that close to the fence. That's a water sucker, so they're really easy to remove. They're tall, skinny, and usually form a little bit further away from the main plants. That you can grow them, especially ornamentally. They get really big, nice leaves and a skinny trunk. They'd be good in a tropical themed garden, but you'll be waiting a long time to get decent fruit from them. But if you are on acreage and you do want to fast track getting a lot of planting material, or you want to start your own banana farm, this is what I'd suggest that you do. Find a plant and force it to produce more icorm suckers. So then, around winter or before winter, which is now, intentionally take the top off it. So get everything out of the way so you can have a good swing at it. And then it's only on the crate with that bag, just so I don't cut through my irrigation. When it drops, you can start to turn it into mulch, which, to keep this video moving, I'll deal with cleaning this up later on, but you get the idea. And just quickly, this water is sap and it'll stain your clothes brown and you'll never get it out. So anyway, you remove that in spring and you'll have all your icorms ready to plant out. Through here, that's what an old, already harvested plant looks like after about a year. You can leave them as they are, or you can knock them over and mulch them in, because it doesn't make a huge difference, but it is recommended to leave them as they are. So let's have a look at this bunch of fruit which came from that area. It's heavy enough that if you are going to do an alternative propping method, you're going to need solid posts. So that is a shade sail post that was getting thrown out on Marketplace. And I'll replace those wires with ratchet straps. That's just what I prefer to use, but I don't have any lying around at the moment. Otherwise, you got the bamboo props like that, which I'll talk about more in a bit of detail soon. So let's walk through into the food forest. Apologies if this is a bit scattered. I'm just making this video as I walk through rather than in any order. So next in that order is removing these with the tools that are available to you. Because you won't have one of those gouge desuckering irons that I have, this is perhaps the second best option. It's not ideal because you're disturbing the root system of the mother plant and giving it more of a chance to blow over in the wind as well. So you're going to need to prop those up if you're doing it that way. And you should also always be propping up your plants anyway. Okay, so that will lead me to the end of the second video, and this is all just a messy clump which I intentionally use to create biomass. So I can grab that stem there and either leave it there or use it somewhere else. And then in the third video and final video for this little workshop series of banana growing in the backyard, I'll talk more about these props and the taller ladyfinger variety of bananas. Alright, maybe see you soon.